Hello. Hi everyone. So sorry about that. We were just testing the computer to make sure that you could see properly. I'm redoing my video from last night just um because the quality was really strange. Like the sound was good, but the video just seemed like it was glitching a lot. I almost looked robotic. Hi everybody. Sorry. So today we are trying to redo the second anniversary video because we found that the sound was good, but that the computer looked like it was glitching and no one stopped to say like in the comments like, hey Rise, you look like a robot. So please let me know if you can hear me. Please let me know if I'm glitching, that kind of thing. So today we're basically going to just go back through the questions that were asked last night. But before that, I wanted to make an announcement and I put it in the on the page, which is basically because of COVID, the influx of clients has been tremendous. In the past 3 months, from about May, June, July, now August, I have had about 40 new clients and about 50 to 60 odd messages about therapy. So a lot of persons I've had to refer out. Some persons understand. Some persons have been good with that. They're good with going to another therapist, that kind of thing. I've had therapists ask me, can I carry some of their clients, new clients coming on? So this is pretty much what's happening. It's very common. What I would just ask is that everyone be a little patient with all the psychologists because, for example, recently someone was very rude, like very rude to me, because I couldn't take them. So what traditionally happens is your psychologist will ask, what's bringing you to therapy? What's happening? We need to know a little bit of information. So A, we can say whether we can see you or not, whether we have the competency. And B, we need to know if it's a case that we can handle at this point in time. And so when I kind of told the person, I don't really think I can take the case right now. And I already kind of knew I shouldn't have been taking any new cases because I already have like 30 odd clients in rotation every week, every 2 weeks. The person became very upset and arrogant and insulted me basically. So please, please, I'm asking you guys be patient with us because we are patient with you and we do want to support you and we're going to do so as best as possible by, referring you to someone else who either has the competency or that would have the time for you. So I'm just asking you guys be patient with us. Right. So the questions that were asked yesterday, we're just going to go right through them again. What are some challenges in therapy? So basically, I went through the list, and one of the things I started off with was trust and vulnerability. Yes, we do have some issues with stigma, but I feel like when clients are at a place where they really want support and they really want help, that they're just going to be like, I'll get past the stigma, let me just go and at least reach out to this person. Once you've reached out to the person and you make an appointment and you come, it's then really up to us, the therapist, to give you a space that you feel that you can trust us. And so I wanted to make sure that I do that for everyone. And so that the trust and the bond and rapport is built, and so that you can feel vulnerable. That's what I would say is another challenge in therapy is making sure that people are comfortable enough to feel vulnerable because usually therapy asks you to talk about some things or examine some things that maybe you haven't had to do just yet in your life. And so we of course want to take our time. We would always ask our clients like, is this comfortable? Are you comfortable talking about that? Or we just look at their body language, and your body language usually gives away whether you're comfortable or not with something. So we always are trying to check in, seek clarity, but yeah, vulnerability is definitely a challenge. Getting people to like trust this person, like, okay, can I trust you? Can I tell you this thing? Can I tell you if this works or doesn't work? Or how does that impact me? How does that impact what you think of me? So definitely being able to have that vulnerability. Expectations. A lot of people come with expectations of what therapy may be like. Like, for example, I had a client Like clients sometimes naturally come into my office and they gravitate towards the couch, and I'm like, oh no, like we sit at the desk when we're doing work. um, Nowadays we're using the couch more because it has more distance, so kudos for those who are coming in office, you get to sit on the couches now. So but just why do they instinctively go to the couch? Because that's what's portrayed in media, that you're the couch sitter and you're gonna lie down and I'm not gonna ask any questions and you're gonna just talk for an hour. So that's not true. There are a lot of give and take in therapy. There's gonna be times when you're gonna talk and there's gonna be times when I'm gonna talk. And it's totally normal for your therapist to wait for you to pause and ask you about something else or something that might be similar, or you might not even know why your therapist is asking you that question, but there's always a reason, especially any good therapist who's taking their time with you. You're going to be like, oh, okay, I see why she's asking that question now, right? So expectations and like um how far will you push me emotionally? We're not going to try and hurt you or harm you. I'm going to talk about ethics just now. And so our intention is always to keep you safe as long as we can. As long as you are with us, we're going to try and keep you safe, right? The other expectation is, how many sessions do I need? Now, I can't always say that off the bat. Sometimes I get that question before they even step into the office, and I'm like, I don't know your case well enough to say that. I can give you like payment options, I can give you like a schedule, you can come every 2 weeks, but it depends. Like if you sit in front of me and then I can say, okay, well, yeah, there's some trauma, there's this, depending on your goals as well. Um, it just depends. It's really hard to say how long you'll be in therapy. But the main point of that is recognizing that therapy is a journey. And so for one person, they may only need 9 sessions. Another person may need 25 sessions. Some people are in therapy every other week or every 2 weeks or whatever for 6 to 10 months. I mean, it just really depends on what they need. If they're taking medication, if I need to refer them out, then maybe they need to take a break, go on the medication, see if that helps. If the medication works, then maybe they don't need me, right? So every client is going to be unique and every client is going to have their own kind of treatment plan and treatment style, right? Um, Ethics. So another challenge with therapy is persons obviously not knowing that we have ethical requirements, we have ethical dilemmas that come up, and that the ethics are put there to protect you. Our first pillar within our ethical guidelines, which is the APA guideline, is firstly, do no harm. It's taken from the Hippocratic Oath of Pre Non Non Lucre, which means firstly, do no harm. And so our intention is always to protect you. Our intention is always to make sure that we're not pushing you, we're not re-traumatizing you, or we're taking our time. And so ethics also comes with, breaching confidentiality. Not everything in therapy is confidential. Sorry to say, if you're talking about harming someone else or talking about harming yourself, or you're talking about maybe that you were hit, say you're a youth and you were hit or harmed or neglected or are being neglected by like a guardian, then I have to do my duty and I have to report it. And obviously, people get upset, clients will be upset initially, but it really is all in the long run for your safety and protection. I really hope that clients who do get upset at us see the benefit in the long run, because it's only with the intention to make you a better person and even remove you from, harm's way. Right. So, second question. What disorders do we see in Guyana often? So, like I was saying last night, we often, like, for example, one of the major issues in Guyana, even though it's not like a disorder per se, is CEN, so childhood emotional neglect. I've been talking a lot about that this year and getting people on board with, like, this is real, this is a thing. If you have self doubt, if you feel invalidated, if you don't know parts of your identity, if you aren't confident even, or have struggled with your self-confidence and self-worth for a few good years, more than likely you're a victim or a child who has experienced childhood emotional neglect. And so it's very common in Guyana. It falls under the realm of emotional abuse. You also see a lot of invalidation of children and even adults, like even in a partnership, your partner might invalidate your goals. We see a lot of relationship issues, of course, anxiety, depression, rumination, which is basically like overthinking and just like keep spinning on this wheel of thinking. Um, we see a lot of obviously anger management, stress management, substance abuse, um, abuse in general. But a lot of things, I think, when clients are coming to me in their 20s, they've already experienced a lot of things that would bring them into therapy, and that's just the reality. Like, if you're coming to therapy, more than likely, like half of the time, like when I look at my clients, half the time is things that happened like 10 odd years ago, 4 odd years ago. If they happened like this year or the past 2 years, the impact is felt harder, like more intense, because it's something reminding them of like their past, whether they felt out of control or inferior or neglected or abandoned. Like, so you can understand why people might have a harder time now, because something may have happened before and they're taken right back to that place all over again. So those are some of the things we see. I can't see the comments, but if you have comments or questions, I'll see if I can try and figure out how to get to that. I'm using a very strange laptop live system. It's not like a regular phone live where you can see the comments. Third question. Can certain mental health illnesses be cured? And I asked this question again last night. What do we mean by cured? As in, you'll never have a depressive episode, you'll never have a panic attack, you'll never experience doubt. If that's what you mean by cured, then no. As long as you're living, as long as you have experienced life, you're gonna have potentially mental health situations or challenges. As long as you are living, you might be triggered. Even if you're in therapy, we can plan for all the triggers as much as possible, but sometimes something will just pop up and you'll be like, why is that upsetting me? Why is this triggering me? And it's like, yeah, because that's something we did not expect could happen, and it happened, right? So it's very interesting to that way of looking at it. But yeah, certain disorders, like for example bipolar and schizophrenia, they need medication, and so you may be on medication for the rest of your life. Think about, like, for example, is diabetes cured? It's not really cured, it's managed. Yes, there are people who can like get down to such a low level, that they're not afflicted by it as much. Maybe they don't have to take medication as much, but that's hard work. So when you come to therapy, if you don't want to feel that way anymore, you've got to put in the work. And so, like I said, I can't just wave a wand and go, "Boops, you're cured." Like, we have to understand, like I said, therapy is a journey and it can be lifelong for some people. The longer that you go without coming to a professional for support, the harder it's gonna be, because you, instead of like, say something happens like 2015, if you came to therapy 2016 or 17, you would have only have suffered for 2 years. But if something happened in 2015 and you're coming to me this year, you're talking about 5 years of suffering, 5 years of maybe doing like ineffective coping mechanisms. You're talking about 5 years of maybe have an increased suicidality, right? The longer someone has to suffer with a trauma or life or their mental health, the harder it can be sometimes for recovery, because you start picking up other types of like negative cope mechanisms, or you start picking up like maladaptive behavior to cope with those feelings. Does that make sense? Thumbs up if I make sense, right? So that can definitely be. So to answer the question, are some of them curable? I think a lot of times we have to look at mental health as something we manage. And the more that like you have a predisposition, just like with diabetes, if your mother had it and you may get it, and you've got to manage it as best as you can. So if your mother had depression and your grandmother attempted suicide, then you have to be mindful that this biochemistry might run in your family, or that way of coping runs in your family as a first response or first resort to stress, right? So all of these things are really important. If you've ever sat in my sessions, you know that we talk about family mental health for a very particular reason. It's not to be nosy, but it's to like get an understanding of your family history. Last question, and of course, like I said, I'll try and see if there's any questions in the comments. What have you learned in the last 2 years? So this video is a 2-year anniversary video of me being a practicing psychologist in Guyana. And so for me, I learned a lot about Guyanese people. I mean, I was born and raised Guyanese, but obviously my lived experience is going to be different from yours. So I got to learn a lot about other people, how they cope, how they're brought up, what they think is normal, how they deal with life in general, their relationships, and so forth. So I learned a lot about like the sociocultural landscape of Guyana. Um, I think some of the things we take for granted, like, oh, I grew up with this or I grew up with that, and then you're sitting with someone and they're like, yeah, this was my lived experience, and you're just like, okay, well, thank you for sharing. I did not know that this could happen or that this does happen. So we learn a lot about people, of course. The second thing I learned was every single client is unique and an individual in their own case. Not You can have the two same types of like on paper, they look the same. You can try the same interventions, but the two people are going to react to those interventions differently, going to react to that treatment differently. And so it's really important to recognize the uniqueness of people and, constantly like adapting and trying and putting forth something and seeing if it works and seeing if it doesn't or why didn't it, and then trying to find something that does work for them. Another thing that I learned by extension was that to be crafting unique treatment plans for clients, I had to be constantly reading, constantly doing research. Like I said, any client who has ever had me knows that they get homework and they get exercises, especially this new batch of like all online clients. They're all getting homework and stuff because those are the things I would have handed out to them anyway in session, but now like they're there. So I'm just like, yeah, well, here's your homework for the next week, right? So really important to be always trying to very dedicated to keeping my clients moving, because I feel like they get so down when they have like a relapse or they don't understand why they relapsed, or if they go back to toxic X, or if they don't make that decision that we've been talking about. Like, I don't want my clients to ever feel like I'm disappointed in them. I'm not. I understand why you could relapse. I understand why you might feel like you should go back to that toxic X. So don't ever feel like you're disappointing me or you don't want to tell me the truth that you're really like the therapy's not working. Like, if the therapy's not working, then let me know. Let us talk about it so that I can continually um, try to support you and try to get the best treatment for you. Um, and lastly, um, being analytical. And I talked about this last night, whereby like I didn't intend to go out and become more analytical. I naturally became more analytical. I was told that I was not analytical enough to be a psychologist. And of course, that was very hurtful, and I didn't agree with it because what I recognized was, especially with my Guyanese people, was that a lot of Guyanese people just want to be heard. They don't want to be invisible anymore. They need validation. They want to be acknowledged for their efforts and their ideas and their wishes, and something as simple as that can really change the trajectory of someone's prognosis or their progress. And so yes, intervention is very important, but a lot of times, sometimes I'll get a message, and I remember I got one a couple of weeks ago where a client messaged me and they're like, um, thank you for the session this morning. I felt really heard and supported. And like I said, we take things for granted. And I just never realized that by letting someone share something that's really hurtful or upsetting and letting them just release it, how powerful that can be for them. And I guess that in my mind, I have that support system, so I can do that. But for someone who doesn't, to now meet someone who's basically a stranger And after a couple of sessions, you feel so comfortable with them that, you look forward to this conversation. You look forward, like, I want clients to look forward to therapy, right? So I want to make it the best experience for you as possible. So for me, um, I naturally became more analytical, not because I wanted to try, but because as you spend more and more time with clients and people, you start like naturally hearing things, not like voices. Like you you hear like people talk about a story and you right away you start building this puzzle. I always tell my clients, they always apologize for rambling and I'm like, never apologize for rambling because for you there's a reason you're talking about this. There's a reason it's coming up to the surface and let's just explore that. And so go ahead, right? So I don't want you to ever feel like, oh, you're rambling because you're giving me pieces of a puzzle that I'm going to need eventually anyway. So it does give me a lot of information. Um, I think also it's important to recognize is, especially with like expectations, I think I mentioned this already, whereby like there are going to be days when you're going to talk and I'm going to talk and I'm going to share and you're going to share. Obviously, I'm going to share within limits, obviously, but explaining, this is totally normal. Yeah, I had a client who went through that as well. Or yeah, we're dealing with a client right now who had a case like this, and this is what we did. Do you think this could work for you? Right? So sometimes it's a lot of give and take in therapy. And again, it depends on the therapist. There's some therapists who are like, you must do all the talking and I will guide you. And then there are like therapists who are like, well, I'm psychoeducational, which means I'm going to be almost more like a coach. And I think a lot of times I am doing with certain clients, I am doing coaching, right? It's a little bit different. And what we call that is like elements of coaching comes from what we call solution focused or solution based therapy, right? So again, always trying to, like, you can have a plan, when that client sits down in your chair and they're like, oh my God, right, I had the week of hell today. You're like, okay, throw away the plan. Let's hear this week of hell, like just forget that. We'll get to that in like a half an hour. So for me, these are the things that I've learned and I'm proud of me. And I am proud of all, and I say this every time, and I hope all of my clients hear. I am proud of each and every one of you for ever taking the step to just want more, want a better life, and being so brave and being so vulnerable. And especially like the success cases, like, they'll message me or I do every year, I do a check in every 6 months with them. And like, I'm just so proud of them. And they tell me when they relapse, and they'll tell me they'll come by the office in a month or so. And I said, I welcome you with open arms. Just because you finished therapy, you'd be terminated. It doesn't mean like the door is shut forever. Like, you're a client, you can come back at any point in time. Um, so yeah, so those were just my. Oh, I'm seeing comments now. Wonderful. I can scroll down. Um, Thank you, Gibran, for letting me know that I'm making sense. Mandela, thank you for always supporting me. Um, always feel like I'm in a safe place with you. Thank you. I appreciate. I'm glad to see some people who may or may not be clients. But I just want you guys to know that I do all of this for you and I care for your well-being and I will try and be the best version of myself so I can be the best version for you guys. Um, but I do want to let you know that your hard work is going to pay off, and I can only just wish the best for you. Okay, that's it. I want to take any comments or questions, but I'm now looking at the time. How did this run longer than last night? I am so sorry. Good night, everyone saying good night. Thank you. Hello, hello. Um, if you have any comments below or any questions that I don't get to answer, question below and I will get back to you. I really want to get back to my videos. I'm gonna start back my every like 2 weeks videos in about 2-3 weeks, maybe in a new location. I got some secrets up my sleeve. But I will end off here today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your patience and thank you for your support. Good night, everybody. Safe weekend. Wear your mask, stop touching people, and social distance. Peace.